So why do healthcare and pharmaceutical websites all look the same? For that matter, all of their marketing tends to look the same. And I think you know what I'm talking about. It's boring, it's serious, it's scientific. It's as if they have this sanctioned industry color palette that everybody uses. Everything looks the same. Okay. So worse yet is the messaging. You've heard it all before. We bring hope and change to patients that are suffering from insert the disease state, or we take a novel therapeutic approach to doing X, Y, or Z. We're a discovery stage biopharmaceutical company focused on, and the imagery is all the same too. You know the types of ads. It's an elderly couple, they're holding hands, walking through a park while the grandkids play at their feet, or it's some avatar representing the illness or the condition, and it's following this decidedly annoyed person through their daily grind. You get the point. So why do all the sites and all the marketing across healthcare and pharmaceutical companies look the same? One theory is the herd mentality. Everybody's familiar with it. In this case, it's when marketers tend to want to be influenced by their peers. It's usually not a rational decision. It's usually an emotional decision. And this is probably amplified due to the significant risk that pharmaceutical companies and a lot of healthcare companies have, and the regulatory hurdles. So I think we all get that, but the problem is it's really difficult to differentiate your brand if in fact you're following the herd. Another theory is just the seriousness of healthcare. You take any great marketer, put them in a healthcare environment, and within 3 months they're speaking fluent science. And science is really at the root of things. And again, I think we all get it. These are serious things. These are lives at stake. And it's science, and accuracy is critical. And a lot of these organizations, the people who started them were scientists, and they still are. Now, the problem with this is that science is rational, and it doesn't move markets, yet alone anybody for that matter, unless it's a scientist. And yet another theory is that maybe these companies are just not in tune with their audiences. Most say they know their audiences really well, but do they really? Have they walked in their shoes? Have they sat with them? Probably not. Most leverage what I would call aggregated anecdotal information, and they really haven't talked to people. So the problem here is it's really hard to connect with these audiences and especially change their behaviors if you don't really know them that well. To break out of the mold of everybody looking the same, I think the first is break from the herd itself. And a great place to start is with your brand story and or your name if you're new enough. I think this is a space where you have more freedom for creativity. It's not science. You're not really going to have the scrutiny that would have from a regulatory standpoint. And I think there's a couple of great brands that are good examples of being creative and inspiring right from the beginning. They were deep into science and discovery, and yet they knew that they had to create a brand space for themselves. One that comes to mind is Bluebird, and if you think about it, the Bluebird is a bird, makes for a great logo and all that, but it also stands for happiness, and it can also stand for clear, sunny skies. And you've got Sage Therapeutics. Sage stands for wise. It's a researcher. It's someone who believes in the truth, and it's very true to their brand. And a third is Juno, and I looked it up, and Juno was actually the queen of the heavens in Roman mythology. So here's the caregiver and all of that. So I think that you can break from the herd, you have this better brand story or name, and do it right up front. Another thing that you can do is get to know your patients, your audiences, a lot better than you may already know. And even probably better than you know your own science, and I mean that sincerely. Speak with them, listen to them on social media, understand their language, not yours, know their journeys. It's interesting to note that the patient has a lopsided influence on prescribing behavior. They show up, and if they know what they want, then Most doctors will prescribe it to them. So the better you know them, the better you're going to be in this regard. Also, get to be part of their world. Don't just understand and become part of their community. Vertex Pharmaceuticals did a great job here where they got personally involved in the CF community. And the last thing they talked about was their therapies. They were intimately involved in that community and got involved in charities and so forth. So think about that, get to know those patients, get involved with them. The other one that you can do is lead with emotion and follow with science. I think we see way too many healthcare companies wanting to get to that science right away. And the problem is that science can lead to conclusions, but emotion is going to lead to the action that you want from them. So, some of the ways that you can do this is showcase the patients, the miracles, the things that your brand was meant to do, and let them tell the stories and change behavior. As for the science, there will always be a time and a place for that, but if you think about it from a patient standpoint, most people probably can't even tell you how aspirin works in their body, yet alone CAR T therapies and so forth. So most patients need high-level visuals, and in a simple story, they'll peel into the science later if they need it. And as for the science, let's put that further down in the conversation. People will find it, the scientists who need to see it and so forth. But at the top of your conversation and your marketing, lead with that emotion. So in conclusion, each of us is bombarded with 5,000 brand exposures per day. Medicine is something that should inspire. And if you leverage that wisely, you'll be the one or two in the 5,000 that gets through.